Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode number 111. That's right, number 111. Gumbo Live, the number one Facebook talk show dedicated to board gaming. Our special guest tonight, Charles Mruz, the director of Gamemaster documentary. It's out on video on demand everywhere, iTunes, Amazon, YouTube. You can find it out there. Board Game Gumbo, a proud member of Punchboard Media. Hey, check out some of our other fine members like I Heart Board Games. That's right. Jesse and Melissa from Baton Rouge. They have a Twitch channel. They do live plays, great unboxings. They discuss some of the issues going on with the hobby. And you might even see a movie or a sketch or even a funny song too. I Heart Board Games on Twitch. Check them out. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Hey, hit us up on social media tonight, on Twitter or on Facebook at Board Game Gumbo. And we'll be looking for your questions in the chat crew. But enough blather. Let's get right to our special guest. Welcome in, Charles Mruz, man. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Charles, it is so awesome to have you. I hit you up on Twitter, and you were thankful to come in. And then Steve and I got excited because we actually saw the documentary. But for the one or two people that don't know who Charles Mruz is out there, just give us the quick elevator pitch. Who is Charles Mruz? What's your elevator pitch? What's your background in board gaming?
Well, grew up in Minneapolis, came out here, wanted with the dream of making movies, and I am the director of a great documentary on board games. So, that feeds into, my relationship to board games. But other than that, I'm just an avid player and lover of board games.
Board games. I think you and I kind of got the same start when it comes to the evolution, the new hobby games out there. Settlers of Catan, any of those games come to mind? What's that game that really just charged you up?
Oh, man. We had a discussion with the producers and specifically Jimmy Nguyen, who's a producer on it. And we kind of came to the conclusion that, yeah, he does.
Hey, Jimmy.
That sounds like him. I kind of came to the conclusion that this movie may not have happened without Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Yeah. We got to give credit to Puerto Rico. I don't know if I mentioned that in my review, but I know that I heard y'all say that. Why is Puerto Rico one of the things that without it, the documentary wouldn't have happened?
So, everybody has that moment where they play the game and they go, oh, this has opened my eyes to what board games could be. This is different than the games I played when I was younger, the Monopolies, the Scrabbles, the American, classic board games. And for me, that was Puerto Rico. I played it back in Minneapolis with a bunch of other people, and that was kind of my intro to these kind of games. And I think Jimmy had a separate kind of experience with Settlers of Catan, but we had known each other for a while. And then one day I just pulled it out of my closet, and that renewed the love of games for both of us. So we just started playing it like nonstop for probably about 5 or 6 months straight.
I think Puerto Rico was maybe the third or fourth of the, I call them classic Euro games that I bought. And we just played it and played it and played it. And then I made the mistake of getting on BGG and finding out, oh, there's like a right way to play it and a wrong way to play it. And after that, I got so nervous about, am I making the end? I'm not very, very good at making efficient moves, Charles. Are you an efficient Puerto Rico player?
When I know the rules, then yes. But There was a day that, much to my surprise, I found out that I had been playing it wrong for years. So, I don't exactly remember the technicality of it. Yeah, I was in a tournament and I saw someone do a move and I immediately realized, like, oh, I've been playing it wrong. This guy is probably right. And
did you try to trade sheep for indigo? Is that what it was?
Not exactly. It had something to do with, if you want to get into the technicalities, I think it had something to do with when you could unload the boats or something. I don't remember.
No, I'm sure that happened. Yeah. Got a couple of people checking in. Hey, Topher Graves checking in. Topher took it on the chin as the alien in Not Alone this week, Charles. So it's nice of him to come in. Have you played Not Alone? No?
I have not.
Okay. Great little one versus me. Topher actually did great. In the middle of the game, we thought we were going to get subsumed by the alien, but the humans came back and got it done. But hey, Topher, you got any questions? Let us know. Bill Lasik, the designer of Koi. I don't know if you've played Koi before. Bill's always checking in every once in a while. Good to hear from you. I hadn't actually talked to Bill in a while, so good to hear from you. Let's see who else is checking in. We're going to be talking about a game that Tim talks about a lot, Role Player Adventures, in just a little while there, Charles. So
Okay.
Tim's over there with
Looking forward to
Thunderworks Games. So yeah, nice to hear from him. So yeah, lover of board games. So the Minneapolis scene, I'm kind of curious. You still live in Minneapolis?
No, I'm in Los Angeles right now.
Los Angeles. I hear Los Angeles has a pretty good board gaming scene. How is it? I've got a lot of designer friends, a lot of game players out there.
Oh yeah, tons. In fact, there was until all of this stuff started happening. But there was a convention that happened 3 times a year called Strategicon.
Strategicon,
also
sure.
Played a big part in the making of this documentary, as far as us both before the documentary even started, as far as just us, keeping our love of games going, and being immersed in the community, and also just meeting some people that even made it into the documentary. Strategicon happens 3 times a year, and it's mostly it's not like a Gen Con where it's about showing and exhibiting new games. It's more about people playing in tournaments and just playing together and discovering new games.
My favorite convention that down here in the South here is BGG Con over in Dallas and Dice Tower Con over in Orlando. And both of besides our local con, Southern Board Game Fest, of course, that's my favorite con. But those two, bigger game cons, that's the thing that I like about both of them, is the fact that we get to really, the focus is there's a little bit of buying of games and showing new games, but it's really about the camaraderie of learning and teaching games from other people. I always want to learn Tricarion, and one of my buddies had it. I don't, see him every once in a while because he's in Iowa, but he was able to teach me and play it. This is a game that would never get to the table down here in my little town.
I mean, that's great. There's games that I've discovered specifically at that con, and I would never have, never heard about them at that. And there's people, that I've discovered that, that I would never have met were not for that con.
BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Charles Mruz, the director of Gamemaster. We're going to be talking about it in a little while, but we also want to talk about, as we always do, some spicy hot games that we played recently. I got a chance, thanks to Tim from Thunderworks, to play a game called Role Player Adventures. It's set in the Role Player universe. Charles, are you familiar with the Role Player universe? You know what I'm talking about?
I am not. I am not familiar. Please tell me.
All right. So Role Player was a game that came out a couple years ago by Keith Mateka, and it's one where you've played RPGs before, or you know what I'm talking about, RPGs, right?
Yeah. Yes.
One of the most fun things that I remember being a 7th grader when my friend bought the red box and started teaching us all how to play D&D was rolling up the character. That was actually, in some ways, kind of more fun. When you'd go home, we would roll up all these. I probably had 12 different characters, but I really only played one. But we were always having fun rolling up characters. Role Player is that in a board game. You actually roll up characters, strength and intelligence and dexterity. Think Sagrada or or any one of those games where you're trying to match patterns. I'm trying to think of the game that is very close to it, but Sagrada probably the closest link to it. But in terms of a great theme of trying to become an adventurer or a fighter or a cleric or barbarian. Well, a lot of people wanted to make the characters, but then they wanted to do something with them. And that's where Keith came up with the idea of Role Player Adventures. How about if you take those characters, or if you didn't have one like me, and you get, if you've ever played D&D, you know what this looks like. This looks like a D&D module. It's got the cover and the picture, and you're going to take the characters you roll up, and you're going to adventure with them. The one I have is 3 different adventures. I can't talk about everything else because, of course, the embargo, but I can talk about the first one. You're basically talk about kind of a trope. You're just a young person joining up the King's Guard looking for adventure, and then complications ensue, right? Okay, so you roll up your character. It's got strength and intelligence. And instead of the usual dungeon crawl, it's a dungeon crawl. You're going through a dungeon. You're attacking monsters. You're taking on quests. You're facing challenges, sort of choose your own adventure style. But it's got 2 cool twists. Number 1, a great story. And for me, any dungeon crawl that's worth its salt has got to have a cool story, right?
Absolutely.
And then the second twist is that instead of rolling dice to just defeat combat, you're using those characters and the cards that come with them to manipulate the dice rolls. So, for instance, if there's an ogre, you might have to get a 6 green on your a 6 on your green die, a 4 on your purple die, and 3 white die that all have 2s on them. 3 white dice that all have 2s on them. Well, you're going to be able to manipulate those with your character, because each one of your character attributes changes or manipulates those things. So it's a cool system where you're bringing in role player and you're doing a great dungeon crawl. If there's any weakness, it's maybe mechanically. I kind of like the simple, throw some dice out and do combat, or like in Gloomhaven, use some cards to defeat it. This has got a lot more built on it, but I see why, because you can specialize your character so much. But to me, what shines about Role Player Adventure is the writing in the game. This person, James Ryan, just knocked it out of the park. It's a storyline that in the first 3 adventures, I mean, by the 3rd adventure, I'm just dying to find out what's going to happen next. And then, what's going to go on in the next couple of adventures. Role-playing games, RPGs, is that something you look for in your gaming, or are you strictly a Euro type player?
I wouldn't say strictly Euro type, but because I think the lines between, what is and isn't Euro, what qualifies, those in the last couple of years just gotten completely blurred. But a little more traditional, like, winner, loser, whether it's a co-op and, you all win together, that sort of thing. I tend to be attracted to those a little bit more.
You said blur, and I mean, look, there's tons of dice in here, right? So you look at it and you think, okay, this is just your basic Ameritrash. But when I tell you about all these cards that manipulate dice up and down, and an economy that you're trying to buy, and all these strategic elements that you're doing to meet the quizzes and the quests, that at its heart, it's another one of those classic hybrids where you're taking this character and you're using some Euro mechanics to build up that character. At the same time, you get the story and the dice and the luck that everybody likes in a classic Ameritrash. And that's Role Player Adventures. I can recommend it for the story. Mechanically, maybe not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's going to make a lot of other people happy, with the game. It's out on Thunderworks, and it's still out on Kickstarter for a couple of days if anybody wants to check that out. That is Role Player Adventures. BJ from Board Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Charles Mruz from the Gamemaster documentary, and we are talking spicy hot games. And in Louisiana, we say je suis jaloux, because I am totally jealous of you playing My City, the brand new game from Dr. Reiner Knizia. It's a Knizia game, right?
Knizia, yes, it's a Reiner Knizia game. So wait, why are you before we get into it? Why are you jealous that I'm playing this game?
I can't find it anywhere.
I know a guy.
Okay.
I know a guy.
I know a guy. This is Cosmos, right?
Yes,
I
it is.
demo for Cosmos. I actually do their demos.
Why don't you have it then?
Thomas Wetzel, you're killing me, Thomas. I'd love to play My City. Hey, we didn't get to do any conventions this summer, so I probably would have had it at one of the conventions. That being said, I'm really curious. Hey, but by the way, I've got a shelf of unplayed games. So
yeah. As do I.
I am jealous, but I want to hear. Tell me about My City, because I had a talk with a very tall man from the Dice Tower who says, Reiner Knizia, what's he done lately? I want to hear what Charles thinks.
Well, Reiner Knizia, I think this game, like a lot of Knizia games, it's about resource management, and the resource changes from game to game. But the reason I like it is because none of his games are super meaty like a Terraforming Mars. So it's still like that, where it's easy to get the gist of the game. It's easy to get the idea behind it and kind of the mechanics. But it's a legacy game, so it changes as you play it. Each episode is it goes in episodes and chapters. It's broken down like that. Each episode's about 30 minutes, and each chapter has about 3 episodes. And each one introduces a new rule or a new goal that you have to do. Still the same game, but changes from each time you play it. And that is one of the things that I like about it. I'm playing it with my girlfriend right now. We both are really into it. We both are enjoying it. We both are really interested in seeing what the later chapters in the game have to offer. So say that again.
I'll just say this is a picture from Chris Ray of the Opinionated Gamers, who took some pictures, and he has really been raving about this game.
It's a lot of fun.
Simple rule set that just builds on itself is what it is.
Yeah. Starts out simple, starts out a little slow, but even by the end of the third episode, not third chapter, third episode, you start being like, oh, I see where this is going, and I don't know where it's going to stop. And so that's exciting.
I probably played 5 or 6 Reiner Knizia games total over my life, and the guy has over 500 games. So I'm never gonna. Although a lot of them are variations of the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Some of them are reskins. Some of them are different languages of the same game. Yeah. So he's got a lot of them still.
But everyone I play, from Tigris and Euphrates to the one that was sort of Tigris and Euphrates. He came out last year.
Is it Yellow and Yangtze?
No, not Yellow and Yangtze. I can't think of the name of it. It came out last year. I'm drawing a blank. I played it at BGG in the fall. To a game that is it Lost Cities? Lost Cities, right?
No, it's yes, Lost City. Yes.
Yeah,
yes. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Lost Cities and Steve, I always talk about this. Yeah, Blue Lagoon. No, Blue Lagoon is one from 2 years ago that I played with Game Geek Ninja. Another great one.
Blue Moon City.
Yeah, Blue Lagoon came out a couple years ago. Another great one. And then what's the one that I play all the time with the little colored? It's sort of like little domino pieces where you got to match up all the colors and Ingenious.
Oh, it's Ingenious.
Yeah. Ingenious. I'm telling you, still one of my favorite all-time abstracts. Something about Reiner Knizia where I tell people and they look at the pieces and I go, listen, there's only going to be 3 rules on this thing, but it's still going to crunch your brain. Still going to crunch your brain.
Absolutely. It's his games. Something I love about his games is that the rule set, once you're in the middle of it, the rule set's simple, but as you go on, it becomes infinitely strategic. And I've played a lot of his games, and I've played a lot of his games a lot of times, and I'm still, I hesitate to say that I've mastered any of them.
Yes. So I am curious about this. Can anybody jump in and out, or is it one of those where you really got to kind of stick together as you go through the story?
So, it even says this in the rule book. Anybody can jump in and out. The rules aren't so complex where, where someone's just going to be lost. You'd have to catch them up a little bit as far as like what you're supposed to be doing. But it does say it is a better experience if you have the same players from beginning to end.
The other thing I find that in the games that I've played with Reiner Knizia, of course, Lost Cities is only a 2-player game unless you play the Rivals version. But the other games that I've played play as well 2-player. I guess because he does it all by math. Ingenious plays as good with 2 players as it does with 4.
I think Ingenious is almost better with 2 players. So this
really?
One, I think it's great head to head. But this one too, I've only been able to play it with 2 people because of the current situation.
Oh, this thing going around.
Yeah, I've only got one other person to play with, whether she likes it or not. And it's been fun. It's been fun. This game has been fun with 2 players.
Meepletown has a question. Dean wants to know: do you have to play story mode, or can it be one-offs? And by the way, Dean, it's time for Cinderella. It's time for midnight to strike. They're having a contest between 80s movies, and I don't know how Bill and Ted's Adventure has made it that far into their contest. No offense. But anyway, do you have an answer for Dean? Story mode?
Yeah. I mean, yes, there's actually both. He's done a great job with this where it's like you play through the story mode, and if you still love the game and you still want to play the game, on the back side of the board, there is I don't know what you'd call it, an infinity play mode where you can just play a version of the game over and over and over again.
Yeah,
it's not legacy.
That kind of anticipates Steve's question. Would you say the base game, the Eternal game, is still good once a campaign is done?
I don't know. I'll let you know when I get to chapter 8.
I don't know this game. Nina says, I knew about Knizia games and I found Gem Dealer.
Oh, I know what that is.
That one.
I know I think it's Eagle Griffin Games. It was a while ago. Yeah. It was one of their big box sets.
I have not played
it. I could be wrong. I've never played it and I don't have it because if I'm not mistaken, it's a little out of print.
Well, thanks to Dale and Chris Ray, you and Chris Ray for allowing me to use those pictures. My City, thumbs up from Charles.
Yeah, thumbs way up. It's nominated for the Spiel des Jahres this year. I think it's going to win. I've played that and I've played Nova Luna. Nova Luna is fun, but I think My City is more fun.
Okay, now hold on. His other design, which was El Dorado, Quest for El Dorado, was also nominated, and I found it one of the weakest Knizia games I've ever played.
Really, I enjoy that game. I'm different than you.
I would play Clank or any other deck building game over. Hey, now it's one of those things where I played it. Caveat: I played it at Dice Archon 2017 with actually with Jesse and them, if I remember right. And we played it at like 12:30 at night until 2:30 in the morning after a long day of demoing games all day for Stronghold. Maybe my brain was a little fried. I just didn't find it as challenging as I thought.
But you played it for 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell Jesse and Ronald and Melissa, well, I don't want to play with you guys. I'm walking out. I'm out of here. Sorry, Verla. No love request for El Dorado. Yeah, that's just me.
I have love for it. I enjoy that game a lot.
All right. BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Charles Mruz from the Gamemaster documentary. We're going to be talking about it in just a second with our friend Verla LeBaron, who's going to be joining us. But I wanted to talk about one more sort of a game, I guess. Azul Crystal Mosaic expansion. Are you an Azul fan?
I played it last night.
Oh, okay. So you like it.
I like it a lot.
So one of the things you hear in board gaming is Terraforming Mars, Azul. Why do they have these player boards that if you just barely touch the table, pieces go all over? And it's happened to me in Azul where I don't remember exactly what my score is. So what I usually do is I look around the room, whoever's in first place, I just, add 10 points to them and just put my marker there. And that way I've got a fighting chance of winning. I'm still going to lose anyway. But so I got to play this. Charles, I played it with Jay Bell. Jay's in the chat today. What is Dean saying? You are wrong. Quest for a lot of fun. I'm not saying it's not a lot of fun.
Maybe you should give it another shot. Listen to the people.
Hey, Dean, come over. Bring Meepletown to Louisiana and teach me Quest for El Dorado. So, and then I looked at the expansions and I was like, man, I just don't know. I don't know. So yes, Jesse, the add-ons in the box were thinner, but here's what I like about Azul. If you're an Azul fan, number one, you're going to appreciate this. Come on, man. This is an overlay that goes right over your board, and it tracks all of your scores, and it's a place to hold the tiles. Picture perfect. Nice little game trays type thing. Goes right over there. This whole box is not expensive, 15 or 20 bucks. But here's the kicker. Not only do you get 4 of those, look what else you get. So you got the 2 boards in Azul, right? You got the main board, and then the backside, the blank board, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. This one gives you 2 additional boards. Now, I've only played one, so I don't know what the second one does yet. But take a look at that. So you got this cool little board. That's the pattern you got to deal with to start the game. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You also have a unique, over here, different bonuses that you get. So now I don't know what this one is. This one's good. If anybody's played this one, I haven't read the rules yet. It's got ×2 on these with starting all over the place. I got to read the rules, and I apologize because I don't know that. But Jay and I played. I think Jay and I played this board, or my wife and I played this board. I can't remember, but just giving you a different look at the Azul and different bonuses, that brings some needed fresh air to what is really a great game. I mean, Azul is one of my top 10 games of that year. And what's your thoughts on Azul?
I think that it's of the games that have won the Spiel des Jahres in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years. It's definitely one of my 1 or 2 favorites. Really? Oh wow. Yeah. So I talk about resource management, like with Reiner Knizia, talk about like infinitely simple yet infinitely complex at the same time. I think this falls into that category, and there's something I love about that, where anybody can play, but it takes like other levels of unlocking of gameplay to be like really, really good at it. So anybody out there that likes Azul, if you don't like Azul, this box is not going to change your mind. If you don't like Azul, check out Summer Pavilion, though. Verla is right. Summer Pavilion, to me, might be the best one of the 3 if you haven't played it. But let's just assume that you like Azul. If you like Azul, for the price point you got with here, you got the Chris Quilliams art. And I love, if you're a fan of Coimbra or the new one about books, I can't think of the name, Alma Mater, Chris Quilliams art. This artwork is just stunning. It almost pretends to give a theme to what is really just an abstract game. Really, it's just an abstract game. But Azul, love the art, love the fresh new boards, and love the overlay. I give it 2 big thumbs up. Crystal Mosaic expansion from Azul. Something you might try there, Charles? Yeah, I'm gonna get it as soon as we get off of the podcast there. Yes.
Michael Young, did you hear that? I just sold one for you. So Patrick Newman, our buddy, our diving buddy, says we played it on the X2 tile side. You can rack up some major points if you're careful. I just don't know how it plays yet, Patrick. So I haven't read the rules. I'm going to check that out. BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Charles Mruz. He's a documentary filmmaker and the director of Gamemaster. We also have one of the producers, actually, maybe the guy who came up with the idea there, Jimmy.
Well, it depends on who you ask. You know, he's not here, so he's not on this podcast. So I'm going to say it was my idea.
Yes, so Charles, because I heard one where I think Charles' name was mentioned. Like, yeah, Charles like kind of said people to go here and said people to go there. Here's your chance to defend yourself, Charles.
Totally my idea. All my idea.
Tell us about Gamemaster documentary. And while we're doing that, I've got my friend Verla LeBaron, who we now know as. Where is she? Is she there? There she is. What's your new position on the show?
I think somebody gave me the title of Gumbo Overlord.
Gumbo Overlord. Welcome to the show.
In addition to being the board game ambassador.
Yeah, so Verla's the board game ambassador. She helps us out with some of the interviews, and she and I are going to be asking you questions. So, Charles, give us that background. Yes. What's the genesis of the Gamemaster documentary for anybody that has this?
So here is the truth. So Jimmy and I, we were hanging out in a coffee shop back when you could do that. And
I remember those days.
Yeah, no, those were great days. But very normal day for us. He had just finished up making doing stuff with his last documentary, Barista, and he says to me, "Hey, I got this idea for a documentary," and I go, "Okay, I'm listening. It's going to be about board games." And I went, "Yeah, great," and said, "I think we should do it. I think you should direct it." And that was kind of where it started. I immediately said, "Yes, I think we should do this." He knows from experience that to do a documentary on any subject, you have to have a love for your subject. Otherwise, you're going to run out of steam because it is a long road. It takes a long time. And if you are not in it for the long haul, you'll run out of steam. You will have no documentary at the end of the day. And so he knew that we were the right people to start with because of, how we feel about board games.
Is Jimmy part of your game group?
Absolutely.
Why is he buying My City if you already have a copy of My City?
He's buying My City because we can't play together. We're
okay.
We're secluded.
I'll give you that
for
one.
reasons beyond our control. Otherwise, I would have had him over last week and we would have cracked it open.
Go ahead, Verla.
Oh, I was just going to say hi to all the people in the comments that keep saying hello.
Yeah, I think you had a question.
Oh, but yes. Who was the target audience as you guys were coming up with the documentary? Who did you really want to make this for?
Good question.
So it was always important. There's two answers to this. It's always important to me to make a movie that was accessible to people who did not play board games. I wanted it to be an enjoyable experience for them. I said to somebody else, there's the movie Somm. It's about, sommeliers, wine tasting. You don't have to drink wine or have even ever had wine in your life to enjoy that movie because it is about people. It is about their goals, what they want, what they're going to do to get it.
Right.
And there's a lot of stories, and I think a lot of people can relate to, different ones. Everybody's got a different one that they relate to. Separate from that, obviously it's important that gamers, there was something there for them too, and getting to see the faces of people like Rainer Knizia, Eric Lang, Antoine Bauza, getting to hear them speak about things and hearing their input and kind of things that they have learned from being years of being in the industry. That was important too.
One of the things that I liked about it is that, as you said, the audience is wide open. I watched a Lego documentary about people that want to work for Lego, and I don't know anything about Legos other than playing with them as a kid. And I was fascinated, absolutely fascinated, because they presented it as something that was accessible to everybody. Charles, I really think you guys did that with Gamemaster. I mean,
fantastic.
It is in some ways a love letter to the board game hobby, in some ways an introduction to the board game hobby, and if you saw my review, in some ways, I want to see the why. I want to see what's going on behind the scene. I'm that person that wants to take the Imagineering tour at Disney and figure out how they do the magic. And somehow you juggled all three of those things, Charles. How'd you do that?
It wasn't easy. A lot of talks between Me and the producers and the editor, John Barry, a lot of talks about what was at the heart of the documentary, kind of the philosophy that we wanted to carry through from beginning to end of the documentary and beginning to end of production. It was just, we watched it, I don't know how many times, and broke it down into segments. Is this working? That was the question we always asked, like, is this working? Would someone want to turn this off? And if the answer was yes, we got to figure out what is the thing that isn't working, and it's, I will say something interesting. It's Charlie Bink, who is one of the designers that we follow in the movie. He is a huge board game fan. That's him right there. He's a huge, board game fan. He knows all of the people, and he was one of the first people that we talked to. And back before we had all of these named designers, he had said, we kind of gave him the overall, the elevator pitch, and then as time went on, he kind of heard all of the names that started to be involved, and he's like, I thought this was going to be a documentary for everybody, and you're kind of getting like the A-list of game designers here. And I was like, yeah, they're there too, and we're happy to have them. And
We've got some questions in the chat for you. Mick from Our Family Plays Games. That's Mick and Starla. Let me see if I can find his question. He says, what about POCs, people of color? Would they relate to this movie? And Verla, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing as me. An ancillary question. Are they in the movie?
Right.
They are in the movie. So we follow 4 newer, kind of first-time designers. 2 of them are POCs. One of them is a Mexican-American. His name is Jason Serrato. Another one is a Pakistani girl by the name of Nashra Balagamwala. So POCs are very featured in the movie. That's Nashra right there. So she has made a game called Arranged. She's from Pakistan. And in Pakistan, it is arranged marriages are a little more common than they are in the US,
Right.
And at a very young age, she heard about this. She realized that this is not for me. I got to get out of here. She went to the Rhode Island School of Design, where one of this assignments was to make a board game. And so she made a board game about avoiding arranged marriages, right? And so to find people with different backgrounds, so in giving them, seeing how they're sharing their unique perspective, that was very important to us. And we tried our best to do justice to that in the movie.
Can I tell you something? So Steve and I have talked about this a lot off air. Nashra and Charlie, to me, are the kind of quiet stars of this show. They're, or maybe what I
agree.
need to say is, Verla, their stories were the most compelling to me. This is nothing against Jason and Scott. Actually, Scott Rogers, to me, he's awesome. I mean, I've reviewed one of his games, the one you guys mentioned. He's got a passion for gaming that it just doesn't stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear about it all the time.
But he's literally, I could listen to that guy tell stories forever. In fact, I said in my review, and this was one of the downsides I said, is that I would love to have seen even more of him just pitching games to publishers, because man, can he tell a story. But that being said, Nashra and Charlie's stories, and I'm not giving any spoilers because I want people to watch this documentary. I don't want you to give any spoilers, but I want to know why. Why do you think Nashra and Charlie just hit the target with so many viewers? Because it doesn't sound like me, Verla, and Steve are the only ones that have told you that.
So here's what I'll say. Something that I love, whenever anybody tells me, oh, I related to this person the most, I'm always thrilled to hear that, because a lot of the time it is a different person for everybody. I have people walking away telling me that Scott is their favorite person. That, Scott, who's a father, he's got 2 kids, his daughter's in the movie. A lot of people have said Scott reminds me of my dad, A lot of people see Jason Serrato, who made a game called Thug Life. It's kind of based on some of his experiences as a younger person. A lot of people see the complexity and the inner conflict that he's dealing with throughout the movie, and a lot of people relate to that. So, you ask me why you think Charlie and Nashra are the standouts. They're the standouts for you, and other people might have a different standout. But what's at the heart of it is something, each of person has a unique, compelling story, and that is something that I'm very happy with.
All right, Verla, your turn.
Let's see here. So with being so immersed in this project, as a gamer, did you burn out on your love for gaming, just working so hard to make the documentary?
Well, having said that I just played Azul last night, I'd have to say that the answer is no. I'm still playing games all the time, and it's not just because of quarantine. Well, while making the documentary, it's kind of interesting because we couldn't play during the day. We went to all these conventions, we couldn't play any games because we're running around making a movie. But while we were driving around the country, interviewing people, and even at the conventions, we're in a city that we're not familiar with. So, what do we do at night? We played board games. That's when we played our board games. And
Nice.
so that was loads of fun.
Let me follow up on that. And just for a second, let me punch a button. So no one is watching. It's just me and you, Charles.
Okay, all right.
Watching. Tell the truth. Jimmy just wanted to go to Essen. Come on, tell the truth. He wanted an easy way to get to Gen Con and an easy way to get to the Spiel.
So
And
Jimmy,
you could write
Jimmy
it off on your taxes.
Jimmy did not make it to Gen Con. He did make it to Essen. And there was a theory between me and one of the other producers, Wally Trust, that was really what was going on. It was just an excuse to try to get to Essen.
Okay, so let's answer some of the critics. One of the critics said, you guys talked about Essen, y'all talked about the Spiel des Jahres, and it was sort of like a grafted on thing. If you saw my review, I didn't think so. I saw it as, and I'm trying to mind read here. I saw this as, Charles, this is your first documentary, although you've been involved in film. This is you being the director, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And this was your chance, like Bruno Cathala's chance, to leave a legacy on a hobby that you love in a medium that you love.
Well, yes, there's some truth to that. And I have to say that to do that, we had to make the choice to kind of show as best we could as complete of a picture as we could. And, without Essen and without the Spiel des Jahres ceremony or just talking about the award, it's not complete. And so, to me, I understand what that person was saying. I know which review you're talking about. I understand what that person was saying, and I'm fine with it because, this was the choice that we wanted to make. We wanted to show these things because we thought they were important.
When you see Bruno Feduti's face at the end and his friend, he doesn't talk about the award. He does talk a little bit about how now he's going to be able to make a living. But really what he talks about is Bruno Cathala has made his imprint on board gaming, right? That's
hearing Antoine Bauza and hearing Bruno Feduti talk about Bruno Cathala, their friend Bruno Cathala, and how happy they were for him. That I love that part.
It's like a big thing. These are the stars of our industry, and yet they're really just friends playing games and making games.
Yeah.
Verla, what you got?
I think it all goes back to story, just tagging on what you're saying and everybody's individual personal story. So what do you hope that the audience of this show learns from it? What do you want people to walk away with?
Well, talking to people throughout making this and hearing people's reaction when I said, I'm making a documentary on board game designers, people have no idea that, first of all, they hadn't even realized it was a job. And as soon as I said it, they were like, oh, of course there's a job. Of course there's a person there. But people just kind of have no idea how these things are made. Are people locked in a room at Parker Brothers until they come up with a game? Is it a brain trust? How does it work? How does it happen? And, another way to look at it is, let's say that, not you, but another person, let's say a person has the greatest idea for a board game ever. They probably have no idea how to begin to start making that game a reality. So one of the things that I wanted people to walk away with was, to kind of have an idea about how to do it. And I've had people in the industry who've been in the industry for years say, I watched the documentary and I learned things because I kind of operate in my own bubble. I kind of know only what's necessary to my operation.
Sure.
And, they learned what different parts of the industry are like, which was great to hear.
Nice.
PJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guests here with Verla LeBaron. We're talking to Charles Mruz, the director of the documentary Gamemaster. I've got two last questions for you. The first one, the picture on the screen. I did some research and I found out, if I understand right, you're making a horror movie. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's been so long since I've been around big crowds like this. When I see those elements, and by the way, I've been both on that side and on the publisher side where we're waiting for that crowd to come in. You have a beautiful shot of the crowd just rushing in.
You know, that's one of the most well-behaved crowds I've ever seen in my life.
It is. You're right. But wow, 6 months ago, I'm excited. I'm joyful seeing that picture. Now I'm like, Charles, what's your prediction? Are we going to get back to that horror movie at some point?
I hope so. I hope so. Only time will tell. I'm confident and optimistic that we will.
Last question. You get this all the time, I'm sure. I've been cycling through the pictures, all the different people. Jason with the talk about his home life and where he grew up and his compadres. Obviously, Nasha's talking about how the game is developed. The super cool insight at Ludifact, seeing how the magic is made. But all these different, the interviews with Dr. Ryan Venezia, Antoine Bozat, Bruno Cathala. I mean, all these luminaries. What's your favorite part, or what's your favorite story about making this documentary?
That's like ask me to pick which one of my children is my favorite.
Here we go.
I can't do it. Can't do it. No, they're out there. I don't have children, but if I did, they'd all be my favorite. Is
there an inspiring moment for you in this whole documentary?
There is, actually. I will say this. I watched so many parts of it in chunks, just like over and over again on my own. So one of my favorite parts is actually, I can't say it. I can't say where it happens because it's kind of a spoiler, but Alon Lee, the creator of Exploding Kittens, is such a great speaker. And when he speaks, he is so inspiring. So there are times when I listen to bits of him and, just what he has to say about creation and how you're going to fall down 100 times and you're going to pick yourself up and then you're going to fall down 100 more. And you just got to try again. At the end of the day, maybe you'll have something great. Like hearing him speak about that is one of my favorite parts because it's inspiring.
I want to go with one last one. We've seen a lot of familiar names to anyone that's seen this documentary. Rachel Moore. It's like a big team. Are you guys a family almost as you made this documentary?
Jimmy, who Jimmy, who's been very active in these comments over here.
And thank you for watching, Rachel.
Those are two people are both part of my board game crew, and you could say that we're like a family, sure.
That is awesome to hear. Verla, you got any other questions? That was mine.
That was yours. I think, was there anybody that you wished that you could get in on the documentary that you weren't able to?
Ooh, yeah.
So
who did you miss on, Charles?
One of the great things about this documentary is that everybody that we asked said yes.
Nice.
They were very like I want to say 99% of people were so into it, so down. And one guy that we talked about getting, and it just logistically it didn't work out. He said yes. He said yes if you can get to me, and that's Alan Moon. Moon, nice. The maker of Ticket to Ride. We didn't get to him because he doesn't really go to conventions, or at least he didn't the years that we were there.
Well, he did recently, and he made a pretty big stir. You and I were at the same convention, I think.
Me? Really? Which one was he at?
What his Dice Tower live appearance at Gen Con 2018, 2017?
I was there in 2017, and I don't know if he was there. Okay, well, let me say
this. Very ribald joke that Tom Vasso was not too happy with. But
okay.
Yeah, one of the
well, he basically said yes. He said yes, but you got to come to Syracuse where he lives, and it just didn't work out. And I wish we could have gotten him in, but just logistically it didn't work.
And we're talking about Alan Moon, the designer of Ticket to Ride. I would love to have heard your comments because wow, Alan Moon's forgotten more about board gaming than I'll ever know. So it would have been really interesting hearing that. Yeah, it feels, Steve, the name father says, it feels like the whole Gamemaster team is here. That is awesome. And that is the Gamemaster documentary. So many great scenes that I have. I don't remember this actual scene. This is from the trailer.
It's from the trailer, actually. It's from the trailer.
And who is that in there?
So that is Charlie Bink.
Okay. Just from a different angle.
Yeah, looking at his board game Trekking National Parks, and the subtitles on that is actually Reiner Knizia speaking, saying the worst thing you can do as a game designer is to fall in love with your ideas that don't work.
Yeah, Yeah. The man with the bow tie, right?
Yeah, bow tie guy.
Verla, thank you for helping me out with the interview. I'm going to send you back down because, Charles, this is a board game show. You know what that means.
Have
I
fun.
do.
All
I think
right.
I do.
See you soon.
See ya. Thanks, guys.
This is a board game show. You know what that means, right?
I believe I do.
If we're going to do a board game show, obviously we got to play a board game. Steve, the name father, briefed you on something, but I see somebody tapping at your window. Charles, what is that? Can you check on me for that? There's somebody tapping on your window. Look, just right there. Oh my God, it's Nashra.
Oh my God.
Hey, Jesse from iHeart Board Games.
Hello.
Hi.
Say hello, Charles, to everybody.
For people who are watching,
the Brady Bunch in here.
I had no idea this was going to happen. What have you been watching the whole time? Have you heard all of the things I've said about you?
I won't tell.
Maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe that's a private text you'll have to send me after. Well, you know.
So for those in the chat room, we've got Jesse from iHeart Board Games, a fellow filmmaker. By the way, he shot iHeart Must Love Board Games, one of the, well, I can easily say it. It's one of the funniest board game movies ever made, right, Jesse?
Absolutely.
And then, of course, we have what I consider one of the stars of the show, Nashra, who had her game arranged. And Nashra, I thought, you heard me when I was talking about it, I'm sure, during the show. Steve and I agreed that you and Charlie Bink were the most compelling stories out there. I thought you were fantastic. And I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm terrible at this game, Charles, and I enlisted Jesse and Nashra to help me beat you at the Envie Game.
Okay.
We're going to be playing with the chat crew, of course, and the chat crew is going crazy. So obviously, Nashra and Jesse are big hits here. I can't even keep up with the comments. So what we're going to do with this game, it's called the Envie Game. It's a Cajun word, right, Jesse? That means, what would people up north say? A jonesing or a hankering? What do you think?
Yeah, gotta have it.
Yeah, gotta have it. A game you really want to play. It could be a game you own, a game you don't own, a game you've always wanted to own, but if the show stopped right now and you could play that perfect game with the perfect group in the perfect setting. And Charles, my understanding is you not only know the rules of the game, you have the game picked out.
That's right. I do. In fact, I have it sitting next to me off camera.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So let's get started. And Rachel, you can play along. I know everybody knows Charles, but you might not know what game he has off camera. So
nobody knows but me.
Okay, good. We're all going to be competing to see. The way the Envie Game works, Nashra and Jesse, I'm going to ask a question, then Nashra will ask a question, then Jesse will ask a question, and we'll also let the chat crew ask questions. You understand the rules of the game, Charles?
Yes, I do.
Let's get started. The first one that I always ask is it a competitive or a cooperative game? And I'm going to guess, based on our conversation tonight, it's competitive.
It is competitive, yes.
Oh, Jesse, that narrows it down to maybe like 120,000 games. Okay,
just a few.
We're on a roll here. All right, Nashra, you're up.
All right. Is it a strategy or party game?
Ooh, good question.
Oh, this is a difficult question. I would say
Don't say it's the intersection.
Don't say it's what?
Don't say it's the intersection of the two. That's a common answer.
I would lean. No, it's not a party game.
Not a party game. That's a fair answer.
Almost a party game.
All right,
Jesse. Depends on what the party is and who's there, right?
Right.
All right, Jesse, what's your question?
Is this a recent release?
Ooh. No, it is not.
That's right from the chat crew. Made in the last 5 years? Steve wants to know.
It is not made in the last 5 years.
An older game. All right. So is it from an American designer?
It is not from an American designer.
Jesse, I feel like we're so close, man.
I know. I'm starting to take notes now.
Not sure you got one?
I'm thinking.
Jesse, you got one?
Does the game include cards?
Oh, is it card-based? Wow, Wally's already got a guess. He says it's Reiner Knizia's Modern Art.
It is not.
It is not. Wally, not even close. I have no idea. Wally is another person I've seen in the credits. So it's like a party tonight.
You know, Wally and I have played Modern Art, and This is only a clue for Wally and I have played this game together as well. So
Ooh, that gives Wally a leg up. We're gonna have to hurry up. Patrick says,
Is it a German board game?
Oh,
it is a German board.
Is it a German game?
It's German.
Yes.
German.
It is.
Is it tile laying? Patrick wants to know.
No, it is not tile laying.
Oh, so it's not Azul. Sorry about that, Patrick. That would have been an easy one, though. Yeah. Oh, Steve wants to know, is the designer in your movie?
This is a great question. Yeah, yes, the designer is in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Is German. Is it Dr. Rainer Knizia?
It is not Dr. Rainer Knizia.
Is it? I want to ask. Somebody else has to ask a question. So that was my question. Oh,
Yeah, then it has to be Catan.
No, it doesn't.
that's not an answer, though, Charles.
I'll say it is not Catan.
Okay, it's not. Okay, good. Sorry, that was the lawyer coming out. Sorry about that, Charles.
Was it designed by someone named Bruno?
No.
Okay.
No, and
Both
they're
those
both,
guys are French.
they're both
Those
French.
guys are French.
Oh, we said American. That's right.
No, it's German. German.
Oh, German. Okay.
Jay wants to know if it uses
I don't know.
dice.
It does not use dice.
Nashra. So he's not being tricky and going with one of the Settlers of Catan expansions, obviously, because it doesn't have dice. That would have been
I will
interesting.
say this is a complete game. It's not like some weird like offshoot or like the fifth expansion of a thing or something like that.
All right, so back to me. Is it Klaus Teuber?
It is Klaus Teuber.
Klaus Teuber. Okay. Jimmy wants to know: are there fancy suits in the art?
There might be some fancy suits.
Oh, I think Wally's got it. Then is it hoity-toity?
This is not fair. Wally has got it. It is hoity-toity.
I would
I have it right here.
I would have guessed
Yes.
hoity-toity next. For viewers out there, Klaus actually won a couple of awards before winning Catan, right?
Yes, that's right. He won Game of the Year with this prior to winning it for Catan. And actually, this copy is special because it was given to me by Klaus Teuber.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Well, that is the Envie game. We've got a winner. Wally Schross, one of the producers, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the producers is one. Nashra, Jesse, we weren't so successful this time. We were hoping to get it, but
close.
yeah, but Wally snuck it out right from under us. I'm going to send both of you down to. Well, no, Jesse, tell everybody how they can reach you over there if they got any questions for you.
Oh, we stream on Twitch 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. iHeartBoardGames or twitch.tv/heartboardgames. Leave the I out.
And Jesse, not only just streaming games, you actually play games. If Charles wants to play games, he could play games with you right there on Twitch, right?
Yep, right there on Twitch we do that, and it all goes to YouTube as well.
Great.
Not sure if they want to get in touch with you. How do they get in touch with you? Oh, did we lose Nasha?
I'm here, but my network keeps coming in and out, so I can hear you, but yeah.
Just if people want to get in touch
I
with you.
missed the game also. What was the game?
All right, so the game was Hoity Toity by Klaus Teuber. Sorry,
Okay.
the Swamp Gas got us. Every once in a while, the Swamp Gas gets us on the show, as Jesse well knows.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to send both of you down to the green room. We'll chat a little bit later, and then I'm going to close out the show with Charles. All right, thank y'all for playing.
Thank you.
All right, Charles, we're back there.
All right.
All right, so yeah, I would have guessed one of those earlier games because he did have two games before that, but
So,
Wally
have
obviously
you-
had.
Have you played that game?
I have not played Hoity Toity.
It is a fantastic game. It's unlike anything I've ever played. And the bummer of this game right now, when you said pick a game you wish you could play, this game is a minimum of 3 people. I don't have 3 people right now. I can't play it.
Is it one that I don't even remember? Is it still in print? I don't
It
think
is out of print.
Mm.
It's out of print. And every time I talk to Klaus's sons, Benjamin and Guido, I say, when are you going to put Hoity Toity back in print? Yeah.
And what do they say?
They say, we're thinking about it.
So many good games out there. There's just so many good games out there. All right, so that's the Envie game. Wally was the big winner. We tried our best, but that was a good choice of games. I like the fact that you kind of thematically tied it back to the documentary. Let's get back real quick. Give us that pitch about the documentary. Where can people see it? We saw some questions from Topher and other people. Where can people see it? How long is it going to be available?
So it's going to be on iTunes, it's going to be on Amazon Prime, it's going to be on Google Play, whatever streaming service you prefer, it's probably there. And it's going to be available hopefully forever. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Yeah.
Yep, sure. The only question about it is when I was posting things about the show, y'all were getting a lot of questions about when's it going to be available in Europe?
Very soon. I believe, I don't know the exact dates, but I think they're set very like maybe mid-month. If we look at the chat, any second, Jimmy's going to chime in and say it's this date. But early to mid-August, I believe, are the dates it's going to be available in Europe.
Well, that was the Envie Game, sponsored as always. Our games here on Board Game Gumbo, sponsored by Game Toppers LLC. Make your game nights a showstopper, Charles, when you play on a Game Topper. Make sure you check those out. All right, so board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. I've absolutely enjoyed. I was so excited to have Charles and the rest of the crew practically in the show. And of course, I want to thank Nasha and Jesse for joining in too. But if anybody has questions about the show, or they want to just talk to you about their favorite moments in the show, how can people get in touch with you, Charles?
Well, there's the Gamemaster accounts. That's going to be Gamemaster Doc on Instagram, on Twitter. We got a Facebook page. But me personally, it's Charles Mruz. As far as like my Instagram handle goes, I'm the only one there. You'll see me. I'm drinking out of a Catan cup.
Pretty easy to find, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and our YouTube channel. It helps us to get the word out about all of our upcoming shows, including next week. We've got the designer, Eric Slauson. He's the designer of Monstrosity and Tattoo Stories. We'll be talking about his game development, his game designs, and a little bit of theory. And we're going to play a game too, Charles. So, hey, step in if you got a chance and try to help defeat it. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. And until next time, Charles, laissez le bon temps rouler.
All right. See you later.